At my father's funeral, rumors were already spreading that I was only there for the inheritance. Later, when the lawyer read my dad's will, he found a short note meant just for me. 3 words that changed everything. Imagine standing at your own father's funeral, your heart already shattered, when your brother, Derek, leans in, his voice a venomous whisper meant for everyone to hear. "She's just here for the money. Dad's going to cut her off." My family's laughter felt like a physical blow, a final, public humiliation. But nothing could have prepared me for the moment the lawyer walked in, holding a single USB stick, and my deceased father's face suddenly appeared on screen, about to drop a truth bomb that would shatter everyone's assumptions. Hi everyone, I'm Maya Sanchez, and honestly at 28, I never thought my life would turn into something ripped straight from a movie. Growing up, my connection with my dad, Arthur, was everything. He was this incredibly driven real estate developer in Boston, built his company from absolutely nothing. But he always made time for me, especially when I was little. I still remember our fishing trips to Cape Cod. I was maybe 8, and he'd wake me up before dawn. The whole ritual, packing the truck, that quiet drive, the crisp morning air. "Maya, my little artist," he'd call me. "The early bird catches the fish." Those mornings on the water, he'd teach me about patience, about the ebb and flow of things. He'd say, "The business world is just like fishing, honey. You need to know where to look, when to wait, and when to reel in your opportunity." I could feel how much his company meant to him. It wasn't just a business, it was his entire legacy. Now, my older brother, Derek, he was 5 years my senior, and from my earliest memories, he was always competing for Dad's attention. If I caught 1 fish, Derek had to catch 2. If I aced a test, he needed an A+. Dad, bless his heart, seemed totally oblivious to this unhealthy dynamic. Or maybe he just dismissed it as normal sibling rivalry. "Your brother has a natural head for business," Dad would beam. Whenever Derek piped up about real estate at dinner, he'd say, "He'll take our properties to new heights someday." The path was laid out for us. Both of us would join the family empire, attend Northeastern for business. Derek would handle operations, I'd do client relations. A perfect, pre-planned future. But my heart, it belonged to art. My elementary school teachers raved about my drawings, and in high school, I was winning competitions. While Derek was deep into business journals, I was filling sketchbooks, experimenting with every paint and medium imaginable. The first real clash with Dad hit during my senior year of high school. College acceptance letters rolled in, and I chose the Rhode Island School of Design over Northeastern. Dad just couldn't wrap his head around it. "Art is a hobby, Maya, not a career," he boomed during what became this explosive argument in his office. "The family business is your future. It's security. It's my future you're talking about." I shot back. I never agreed to any of it. That night, it was like a chasm opened up between us. And Derek, oh, he saw his opening. "Don't worry, Dad," he chimed in at dinner while I just sat there numb. "I'll make sure your properties thrive for another generation." Just like that, he solidified his position as the loyal son, the one who wouldn't disappoint. After that, Dad became this distant figure. Our fishing trips? Gone. Our conversations? Short, formal, almost like we were strangers. He still paid for my art education, which I was immensely grateful for, but our relationship, it was fundamentally broken. Meanwhile, Derek was a master manipulator. He started twisting the narrative about me to everyone. Our Uncle Richard and Aunt Carol, our cousins, Dad's business partners. I became the ungrateful daughter who abandoned her father's legacy. Derek made sure they all knew how betrayed Dad felt. "She doesn't even call him anymore," I overheard Derek telling Uncle Richard at Christmas during my sophomore year. The truth. I had called him just the week before, but he hadn't picked up. When I confronted Derek, he just shrugged, a smug smirk on his face. "I'm just telling it like it is, sis. You made your choice." By the time I graduated art school, the story was set in stone. Derek, the devoted son, me, the one who turned her back. And the worst part, Dad, I could see him starting to believe it, too. My college years flew by in a blur of studios, exhibitions, and part-time jobs. Despite the growing void between us, I kept trying to reach out to Dad. I'd send him photos of my art, desperate for him to see that my choice wasn't a rejection of him, but a pursuit of my own passion. During junior year, I poured my heart into a series of abstract paintings inspired by the Boston skyline. His skyline, I called it, dotted with his buildings. I was ecstatic when a local gallery chose them for exhibition. I sent Dad an invitation, hoping, praying this could be our bridge. "I'd love for you to come," I said on the phone, my voice trembling slightly. "The opening's Friday at 7. His reply was clipped, that formal tone he reserved for me. "I'll check my calendar." Derek and I might be closing on the Harborview property that day. I tried to hide my crushing disappointment. "Well, the exhibition runs for 2 weeks, so maybe another day." "Maybe," he said. "I'll let you know." To my absolute shock, he actually showed up. Not on opening night, but the following Tuesday, completely unannounced. The gallery owner recognized him from my artist statement and called me over. "Your work is interesting," Dad said, his eyes scanning my largest piece. "You're clearly talented." It wasn't the enthusiastic praise I yearned for, but it was something. We grabbed coffee afterward, and for a precious hour, it almost felt like old times. He asked about my classes, my plans. I asked about his business, his health. We danced around all the difficult topics. As we left, he gave my shoulder an awkward pat. "I'm proud of you for working hard, Maya," he said, "even if it's not what I would have chosen." That tiny moment gave me so much hope. I thought, maybe, just maybe, he'll accept my path fully someday. What I didn't know then was that Derek was relentlessly working to ensure that would never happen. I only uncovered the full extent of his poisonous sabotage years later. After graduation, I moved to New York to chase my art career. The distance just made communicating with Dad even harder. I'd call on holidays, birthdays, but our conversation stayed stilted. Derek, meanwhile, had seamlessly woven himself into Sanchez Properties. Family updates painted him as Dad's indispensable right-hand man, involved in every major decision. During one Thanksgiving visit to Boston, I saw how tired Dad looked. The lines around his eyes were deeper, his movements slower. "Are you okay?" I asked him privately. "Just getting old," he waved it off. "Doctor says I need to watch my blood pressure. That's all." I later learned from Aunt Carol that Dad had had a minor heart scare earlier that year. "Derek's been such a rock," she told me, "taking on extra work so your father can rest." The message was crystal clear. While I was off pursuing my selfish dreams, Derek was selflessly supporting Dad. What Aunt Carol didn't know, what none of us knew, was that Derek's support included filtering Dad's communications. Birthday cards I sent mysteriously vanished. Voicemails were never returned. Invitations to my New York exhibitions, lost. As Dad's health dipped, Derek's methods became even more direct. During my rare visits home, he'd engineer situations to reinforce his narrative about me. He'd schedule crucial business meetings on my visiting days, then act disappointed when Dad chose work over spending time with me. "That's just how it is when you run a company, Maya," Derek would sigh with fake sympathy. "Some of us have responsibilities we can't ignore." 6 months before Dad died, I made one last, desperate attempt at reconciliation. My work had just been featured in a prestigious Manhattan gallery, and a prominent art critic had praised my innovative vision. I called Dad, buzzing with excitement to share the news. The call was a disaster. Dad sounded distant, almost cold. When I told him about the exhibition, he barely acknowledged it. "That's nice," he said flatly. Derek just secured the largest contract in company history, the Madison Avenue development, by the way. I tried to express genuine happiness for the company, but Dad cut me off. "Look, Maya, I'm very busy right now. Sanchez Properties requires my full attention. Not all of us have the luxury of pursuing hobbies." His dismissal of my career as a hobby stung. After years of grinding, of legitimate accomplishments, he still couldn't see any value in my path. When I tried to explain how vital art was to me, how it wasn't just a hobby but my profession, he sighed heavily. "I'm too tired for this conversation. Maybe we should talk another time." We never did. That was our last real conversation. I hung up, utterly convinced our relationship was beyond repair, that he'd always see me as the daughter who disappointed him, the daughter not worth his time. I had no idea that every word of that call had been orchestrated, not by my father, but by Derek, who had been poisoning our relationship for years. And I had even less idea that Dad had discovered the truth. Too late for us to reconcile in person, yes, but not too late for him to set things right. I was in my New York apartment, getting ready for a meeting with a gallery owner when the call came. It wasn't Derek or any immediate family member. It was Mr. Henderson, Dad's longtime friend and attorney. "Maya," he said, his voice grave, "I'm so sorry to inform you that your father suffered a major heart attack last night." My hand clenched around the phone. Is he okay?" The pause that followed told me everything before Mr. Henderson even spoke. "I'm so sorry, Maya. He passed away early this morning. Derek asked me to notify you." Derek asked him. My own brother couldn't even pick up the phone to tell me our father had died. I sank onto my couch, the room spinning. "When?" I managed to ask. "Around 2 a.m. The housekeeper found him this morning." I booked the first train to Boston, my hands shaking as I threw clothes into a suitcase. On the way, I called Derek repeatedly. He didn't answer until my fourth try. "What is it, Maya?" "I'm dealing with a lot right now," he snapped. "I'm on my way to Boston," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mr. Henderson told me about Dad. Why didn't you call me yourself?" "I've been busy making arrangements," he replied, chillingly calm. Someone had to step up. "I would have helped if you'd called me right away." Derek scoffed. "Right. Like you've been so involved in Dad's life recently." Before I could respond, he barreled on. "Look, the funeral's Friday at St. Mark's. Everything's taken care of." Friday? That was only 2 days away. "Shouldn't we wait, so people have time?" "The arrangements have been made, Maya," he cut in. "Dad and I discussed his wishes years ago. Not that you would know anything about that." Every conversation with Derek felt like navigating a minefield. I took a deep breath. "Where should I stay?" "The house is full with Uncle Richard and Aunt Carol. Book a hotel." He paused. "And Maya, there's a family gathering tomorrow night before the funeral. Immediate family only." The implication was clear. I wasn't welcome. When I got to Boston, I went straight to the funeral home. I just needed to see Dad, to say goodbye on my own terms. The director led me to a private viewing room. Dad lay there in his best suit, looking unnervingly peaceful. "Hi, Dad," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. "I'm so sorry we didn't fix things." I stood there for nearly an hour, just talking to him, telling him about my life, all the things I would have shared if we'd had more time. That night, alone in my hotel room, I called my best friend, Chloe. "They're having a family gathering tomorrow and didn't even invite me." I choked out. "That's horrific," Chloe said. "Do you want me to come up for the funeral? You shouldn't have to face this alone." Her offer meant everything. "Could you?" "I'll be on the first train tomorrow," she promised. "We'll get through this together." The day of the funeral dawned with skies as gray as my heart. Chloe and I arrived at St. Mark's early, but the front pews were already packed with family and Dad's business associates. Derek, sitting front and center with Uncle Richard and Aunt Carol, didn't even glance up when I walked in. We found seats near the middle. As more people arrived, I felt their stares, heard their whispers. The narrative Derek had crafted clung to me like a shadow. The ungrateful daughter, the family disappointment, only showing up now that there might be an inheritance. The service itself was elegant, formal, so much like Dad. The priest spoke of his business achievements, his community contributions, his dedicated parenting, looking pointedly at Derek during that last part. When it was time for the eulogy, Derek strode to the podium, radiating confidence. His speech painted a picture of a father-son bond that felt entirely fictional to me. Fishing trips well into adulthood, late nights strategizing business, Dad proudly watching Derek carry on the legacy. My father often said that family was everything to him. Derek choked out, his voice thick with practiced emotion. He believed in loyalty, in showing up for the people you love, in honoring your commitments. The subtext was impossible to miss. Everyone in that church knew he was contrasting his dedication with my abandonment. I felt Chloe's hand squeeze mine as I fought to keep my composure. "Some people," Derek continued, a quick, icy glance in my direction, "choose to abandon their responsibilities, their family legacy. But Dad and I always understood the importance of staying true to your roots." After the service, people gathered in the church hall for the reception. Dad's business associates offered condolences, but most interactions were brief, awkward. Aunt Carol hugged me stiffly, then quickly moved on. I was pouring myself a coffee when Derek approached, flanked by 2 cousins. "Enjoying yourself?" he asked, his voice low but loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Must be nice to show up after years of absence and be treated like family." "Derek, this isn't the time or place," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're here to honor Dad." "Honor Dad?" Derek laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Is that why you're here?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're just here for the money. Dad's going to cut you off, you know." Several heads turned. My face burned with humiliation. "You have no idea why I'm here," I said. "Don't I?" Derek's smile was cruel. "You haven't cared about this family for years. You didn't care when Dad needed heart medication. You didn't care when he was working himself to death. You only care now that there might be something in it for you." People were openly staring now. I heard someone snicker. Uncle Richard came over, placing a hand on Derek's shoulder. "Perhaps Maya should just leave," he suggested, not even looking at me. "She's not really family anymore, is she?" The laughter that followed from several family members nearly broke me. Every instinct screamed at me to walk out, to spare myself any more humiliation. But something held me rooted. I owed it to Dad to see this through despite everything. "I'm staying," I said quietly. "Whether you like it or not, he was my father too." Derek shrugged dramatically. "Suit yourself, but don't get your hopes up for tomorrow." Dad knew who really cared about him in the end. Tomorrow, the will reading. I hadn't even been thinking about the inheritance, but clearly everyone else had. In their minds, that was the only reason I would have come back, to claim what they believed I didn't deserve. As I walked away, I heard Derek's voice carry across the room. "She'll be singing a different tune tomorrow when she realizes Dad saw through her act years ago." If only I had known then how prophetic those words would be, though certainly not in the way Derek intended. The reception felt like a slow-motion nightmare. People I'd known my whole life either avoided me completely or approached with thinly veiled hostility. Mr. Thompson, Dad's business partner of 20 years, spoke to me with such forced politeness, it was worse than rudeness. "Your father was a remarkable man," he said, his eyes darting around as if planning an escape. "He built quite a legacy with Derek." "With Derek," I repeated. "Right. The company's in good hands now," he continued, finally meeting my eyes. "Your brother has your father's vision. The transition should be seamless. The message couldn't have been clearer. No one expected me to have any role in Sanchez Properties. The succession plan was already decided in everyone's minds, and I wasn't part of it. I spotted my cousin Brenda, my childhood playmate, speaking with a group. When she saw me, she whispered something to the others, then reluctantly broke away. "Maya," she said, her hug so brief it barely qualified. "I'm sorry about Uncle Arthur." "Thanks," I replied. "How have you been?" "Fine, busy with the kids." She glanced back at her group. "Derek mentioned you're living in New York now. That must be interesting." "It is. I've been building my career as an artist. I actually have a gallery show next month at—" "Oh, that's nice," Brenda interrupted, completely uninterested. "Must be fun to follow your dreams while Derek's been here handling everything." She didn't even try to hide her judgment. "Excuse me, I should check on my husband." And she was gone. I stood alone again, feeling more and more like an unwelcome intruder at my own father's funeral. I found Chloe by the windows, mercifully alone. "This is worse than I expected," I whispered to her. "They all hate me." "They don't know you," Chloe replied firmly. "They only know the story Derek's been telling them, which they all believe because it's easier than questioning it. You're here for your dad, not for them. Just get through today, and the will reading tomorrow. Then we can go back to New York." The will reading. My stomach clenched. If the funeral was this bad, how much worse would tomorrow be? Based on Derek's cocky confidence, I fully expected to be publicly disinherited, confirming Dad's final disappointment in me. I was lost in these thoughts when I heard Derek's voice, louder than appropriate for the setting, clearly meant to carry. "I still can't believe she had the nerve to show up today," he was saying to Uncle Richard and 2 men I recognized as board members. "After how she broke Dad's heart, refusing to even visit when he was sick." A flash of indignation. I hadn't known Dad was seriously ill. No one had told me. But before I could decide whether to confront him, Derek continued. Well, she's in for a surprise tomorrow, he said with a smirk. Dad updated his will last year after she refused to come home for his birthday. He finally realized she didn't deserve any part of what he built. One of the board members nudged Derek, who turned with exaggerated surprise. Oh, Maya, didn't see you there, he said, not even trying to sound sincere. We were just discussing tomorrow's meeting with the lawyer. You are planning to attend, aren't you? His tone made it clear he expected, even hoped, I'd slink away to avoid the public humiliation he believed awaited me. Of course I'll be there, I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. Derek smiled coldly. Excellent. It should be enlightening for everyone. Uncle Richard didn't even try to hide his disdain. I don't know why you're bothering, Maya. Arthur made his feelings quite clear while he was alive. Did he? I asked, a sudden spark of something, curiosity, defiance, igniting within me. What exactly did he say? That's between him and the family members who actually stayed in touch, Uncle Richard snapped. Maybe if you'd picked up the phone more often in the last few years, you'd know. My face flushed with anger and shame. I try to stay in touch. It's not as simple as you're making it sound. Never is with you, is it? Derek interjected. Always an excuse. Always someone else's fault. Dad got tired of it, Maya. He got tired of waiting for you to grow up and accept your responsibilities. The conversation had drawn a crowd. Several nearby groups went quiet, openly watching our confrontation. I felt dozens of eyes on me, judging, condemning. You have no idea what my relationship with Dad was like. I cried, my voice finally breaking. You have no right to. I have every right. Derek cut in. I was there every single day, through everything. While you were off playing artist in New York, I was helping him run his company, taking him to doctor's appointments, being an actual daughter. Sorry, I meant actual child. The deliberate slip elicited a few chuckles. My humiliation was complete. I stood there fighting back tears as Derek smiled triumphantly. Face it, Maya. You're just here for the money. Dad's going to cut you off. Everyone here knows it. You know it. Tomorrow, we'll just make it official. I wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at me to flee. But leaving would only confirm their beliefs. Despite the burning humiliation, despite the tears I could barely hold back, I stood my ground. I guess we'll find out tomorrow, won't we? I managed to say before walking away with every ounce of dignity I had left. The next morning, the skies were still gray, mirroring the dread in my stomach. I dressed carefully, a simple black dress, trying to mentally brace myself. Chloe had offered to come, but I needed to face this alone. Call me the second it's over, she insisted. No matter what happens. I promised I would, though I fully expected to be making that call in tears. The law offices of Henderson, Baxter, and Wright were on. The top floor of one of Dad's downtown properties, a detail that felt like salt in the wound. As I rode the elevator up, Mr. Henderson, Dad's friend and attorney, who had handled our family's legal affairs for over 30 years, would be the one to deliver what I assumed would be my father's final disappointment. When I arrived, the conference room was already packed. Derek sat at the head of the table, already playing the patriarch. Uncle Richard and Aunt Carol were to his right, with the company's CFO and 2 board members nearby. They were all chatting comfortably, the atmosphere almost celebratory. The chatter died the moment I walked in. Derek looked up with mock surprise. Maya, you actually came. He gestured to an empty chair at the far end of the table. We saved you a seat. The seating wasn't subtle, me isolated at the foot while Derek commanded the head. I took my assigned place without a word, ignoring the whispers. I was just telling everyone about the Madison Avenue project, Derek continued. The one Dad and I worked on in his final months. It's going to revolutionize that whole neighborhood. The implication was clear. This was a family business discussion that didn't concern me. I stayed silent, counting the minutes until this ordeal would finally be over. At precisely 10 a.m., Mr. Henderson entered. Unlike the others, he greeted me with genuine warmth. Maya, thank you for coming, he said, briefly squeezing my shoulder. I'm very sorry about your father. He spoke of you often. That simple kindness, in that moment, almost shattered my composure. I nodded gratefully, not trusting myself to speak. Mr. Henderson placed his briefcase on the table. Before we begin, I want to thank you all for coming. Arthur Sanchez was not only my client, but a dear friend for over 3 decades. His loss is deeply felt by everyone in this room. There were murmurs of agreement. Arthur was meticulous in his planning, as you all know, Mr. Henderson continued. He left very specific instructions about how today should proceed. Derek leaned forward, his expression brimming with confidence. We're all eager to respect Dad's wishes and move forward with the transition he planned. Mr. Henderson nodded, his expression unreadable. Arthur's instructions for this reading are somewhat unconventional. He prepared a video statement to accompany the formal will document. That announcement was met with confused looks. Video wills weren't common, especially for someone as traditional as my father. A video? Derek asked, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face for the very first time. He never mentioned that to me. Arthur recorded it privately about 3 months ago, Mr. Henderson explained. He was very specific that it should be viewed before the written provisions are discussed. I watched Derek's reaction carefully. The confidence that had radiated from him all morning seemed to waver just for a second. He recovered quickly, but I'd seen it. A moment of genuine surprise, perhaps even concern. Well, let's get on with it then, Derek said with forced casualness. I'm sure Dad just wanted to add a personal touch to his formal wishes. Mr. Henderson nodded to his assistant, who brought in a laptop and projector. We'll display the video on the screen at the end of the table. As the equipment was set up, the entire atmosphere shifted. What had felt like a mere formality now held an element of unpredictability. I saw Derek whispering intensely to Uncle Richard, whose face grew increasingly worried. Arthur was very explicit that everyone listed in the will be present for this video, Mr. Henderson announced, consulting a paper. He read through a list of names, checking off each person. Excellent. We're all here. He nodded to his assistant. We're ready to begin. The lights dimmed, and Mr. Henderson inserted a USB drive. After a moment, the projector illuminated the screen, and there was my father. The sight of him, healthy, composed, alive, hit me like a physical blow. He sat at his desk, wearing his navy suit, looking directly into the camera as if at each of us. The room went completely silent. Even Derek seemed momentarily stunned by this posthumous appearance of our father. Hello, everyone, Dad began, his voice so familiar it made my throat tighten with fresh grief. If you're watching this, then I'm no longer with you. I've asked Mr. Henderson to share this message because there are truths that need to be spoken. Truths I regrettably didn't recognize until it was almost too late. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I glanced around. Everyone was leaning forward, hanging on his every word. What I'm about to say will surprise many of you, Dad continued. It will upset some of you. But before I leave this world, I need to set the record straight. A strange sensation, not quite hope, but something like it, sparked in my chest. Dad's expression softened, and for a brief moment I saw the Dad I remembered from those early fishing trips, the one who loved me unconditionally before everything changed. This is primarily a message about truth, he said. About family, about betrayal and forgiveness, and about second chances that come too late, but perhaps not too late to make right. His eyes seemed to look directly at me. I want to begin by speaking directly to my daughter, Maya, Dad said, his eyes seeming to find mine through the screen. If you're here, and I hope with all my heart that you are, I need to say something I should have said to you in person. I'm sorry. A collective murmur rippled through the room. Derek shifted uncomfortably. I'm sorry for the distance that grew between us. I'm sorry for not supporting your dreams. Most of all, I'm sorry for believing lies about you that I should have questioned. Dad's expression turned pained. You see, I recently discovered something that has changed everything I thought I knew about our family dynamic over the past several years. About 6 months ago, I had another minor heart episode. The doctors advised me to reduce my workload, so I began working from home more often. He leaned forward slightly. One afternoon, I was looking for some documents in Derek's office at the house when I found something disturbing. A drawer full of cards and letters from you, Maya. I gasped audibly. Heads around the table turned to me, then swiveled to Derek, who had gone completely still. Birthday cards I supposedly never received, Dad continued. Invitations to your art shows, notes updating me on your life. All unopened, all hidden away. His voice hardened. All deliberately kept from me. Derek stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. Dad was confused after his heart. Mr. Sanchez, please sit down. Mr. Henderson interjected firmly. Your father's instructions were explicit. The video must be played in its entirety without interruption. Derek sank back into his chair, his face flushed. On screen, Dad continued, that discovery led me to investigate further. I hired a private investigator, without Derek's knowledge, to look into other discrepancies I'd begun to notice. What I found was deeply troubling. Dad picked up a folder from his desk. The investigator discovered that Derek had been intercepting Maya's calls to the house and the office. He'd been deleting her voicemails, returning her calls when he knew she wouldn't answer, then telling me she was unavailable. He'd been actively sabotaging any attempt at reconciliation. Between us, the conference room had gone deathly quiet. Tears streamed down my face, my mind reeling at the magnitude of what I was hearing. But that wasn't all, Dad said gravely. The investigation revealed something even more disturbing about the business. Derek had been engaging in questionable practices that go against everything Sanchez Properties stands for. He'd been cutting corners on building materials, falsifying inspection reports, and in one case, bribing a city official to expedite permits. Someone gasped. The board members exchanged alarmed glances. I built this company on integrity, Dad said, his voice rising with emotion. My father taught me that our name meant something. That a Sanchez property was built to last, built with pride and honesty. Derek betrayed those values for profit and expediency. Derek was now visibly sweating. His earlier confidence completely evaporated. This is a misunderstanding, he stammered to no one in particular. Dad was confused. The medication. Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Henderson warned again. Please. On screen, Dad's expression softened again. Maya, when I discovered all this, my first instinct was to call you immediately. But I realized something important. You shouldn't have to hear my apology over the phone. You deserve better than that. I made arrangements to come to New York, to see your life there, to meet you on your terms. My heart clenched painfully. But you never came, I thought, a silent whisper. As if hearing me, Dad continued, I had planned to visit you the week after that final call. The one where I was so distant. That call wasn't what you thought. I was distant because I was angry. Not at you, but at Derek, and at myself for being so blind for so long. I was planning to surprise you in New York, to see your gallery, to finally tell you in person how proud I am of you. Dad paused, emotion momentarily overwhelming him. My heart had other plans, it seems. So this video will have to serve as the apology and recognition you deserve. He picked up another folder. I've been following your career, Maya, not through Derek's filtered updates, but through art magazines and gallery websites. I've seen your reviews, your exhibitions. I've even purchased several of your pieces through an intermediary. This revelation stunned me completely. Dad had bought my artwork, supported my career anonymously. Your creativity, your vision, your determination to follow your own path, these are qualities to be admired, not condemned. I was wrong to try to force you into a mold that didn't fit. You aren't just a talented artist, Maya. You're a businesswoman in your own right, building something from nothing, just as I did when I was young. Dad straightened in his chair, his expression becoming more formal. Now to the matter of my will and the future of Sanchez Properties. Derek leaned forward again, tension evident in every line of his body. Given what I've discovered about Derek's business practices and his deliberate deception regarding Maya, I cannot in good conscience leave the company solely in his hands. My original will, drafted 5 years ago, would have made Derek the primary inheritor of both my personal estate and Sanchez Properties, with a small trust established for Maya. Derek nodded slightly, as if this confirmed what he'd been telling everyone. That will has been revoked, Dad continued firmly. In its place, I have established the following provisions. The room went completely still. I could almost hear hearts beating in the silence. To my son, Derek Sanchez, I leave a cash inheritance of $500,000 to be held in trust and distributed in annual payments of $50,000. This is contingent upon his cooperation with the ethics investigation I have initiated at Sanchez Properties and his completion of a business ethics program at Northeastern University. Derek's face drained of color. "What?" he whispered hoarsely. "To my daughter, Maya Sanchez, I leave my personal residence and its contents, my personal investment portfolio, and 51% ownership of Sanchez properties." The room erupted in shocked exclamations. Uncle Richard actually stood up in protest before Mr. Henderson firmly motioned him back to his seat. On screen, Dad continued calmly through the uproar. Maya's artistic vision and ethical foundation make her the ideal person to guide Sanchez properties into the future. She may choose to take an active role in management or to serve as chairperson of the board while continuing her artistic career. That will be her decision. The remaining 49% of company shares will be distributed among the current board members and senior management, with specific allocations detailed in the written will. Dad explained, "I've also established a foundation in my name to support arts education in Boston, to be directed by Maya." Dad looked directly into the camera again. "I know this comes as a shock to everyone, particularly to Derek. Son, I hope that in time you will understand that this decision comes from love. Love for you, for Maya, and for the company that bears our name. The path you've been on leads nowhere good. My hope is that these provisions will guide you back to the values I try to instill in you." Derek stood suddenly, knocking his chair backward. "This is insane. He was manipulated. I'll contest this." "I anticipated that reaction," Dad said, almost as if responding directly to Derek's outburst. "Mr. Henderson has comprehensive documentation of everything the investigation uncovered, including recorded conversations, falsified documents, and financial records. Contesting the will would only result in making this information public, possibly leading to criminal charges." Derek fell silent, his face a mask of fury and disbelief. "Maya," Dad continued, his voice softening again, "I know this is an enormous responsibility that you never asked for. If you choose to sell your shares, or to take a different path entirely, I've included provisions for that as well. But I hope you'll consider accepting this role. Sanchez Properties could benefit tremendously from your fresh perspective and ethical foundation." Dad paused, emotion returning to his features. "More than anything, I wish we'd had the chance to reconcile in person, to go fishing again, to talk about your art, to rebuild what was broken. I'm so deeply sorry that won't happen now." Tears flowed freely down my face. Around the table, even those who had been coldest to me looked uncomfortable, avoiding my eyes. "I'll conclude with this," Dad said. "Family is complicated. Business is complicated. But integrity should never be complicated. It's either there or it isn't. Maya never lost hers, even when it would have been easier to compromise. That's why, in the end, she's the right person to carry on the Sanchez legacy." Dad smiled, a genuine, warm smile I hadn't seen in years. "I love you both, Derek and Maya. I hope this decision leads to healing, to growth, and ultimately to a stronger family and company. Thank you all for listening." The screen went black. For several moments, no one spoke. No one moved. The silence was finally broken by the sound of Derek's harsh laughter. "You think this changes anything?" he snarled, glaring at me. "You know nothing about running a real estate company. The board will never accept you." He looked around for support, but the board members were carefully avoiding his gaze. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat. "Perhaps this would be a good time to take a brief recess before we continue with the formal reading of the written will. There are additional documents and evidence that Mr. Sanchez instructed me to share regarding the investigation," he mentioned. Derek stormed out without another word. Most of the others followed, murmuring among themselves, casting uncertain glances in my direction. Only Mr. Henderson remained, methodically gathering his papers. "Did you know?" I asked him quietly about all of this. Mr. Henderson nodded. "Your father confided in me after he made his discovery. He was heartbroken about the time he'd lost with you." He paused, looking at me kindly. "He was very proud of you, Maya. He kept a portfolio of articles about your exhibitions in his desk drawer. The real one, not the one Derek controlled." The tears came again, but different this time. Tears of grief mixed with a profound sense of vindication and of lost opportunity. "I wish I'd known," I choked out. "I wish we'd had more time." "So did he," Mr. Henderson said gently. "But he also believed you have the strength to handle this responsibility. He wouldn't have left you the company otherwise. As the others began to filter back in for the continuation of the proceedings, I sat up straighter, wiping away my tears. The path ahead would be challenging. A company to learn, a brother to deal with, a legacy to honor. But for the first time in years, I felt my father's love and approval. Not despite my choices, but because of them. And that made all the difference. The days following the will reading blurred into a whirlwind of meetings, legal briefings, and raw emotional processing. Derek, true to form, immediately hired an attorney to contest the will. But Mr. Henderson was ready. The evidence Dad had meticulously collected was comprehensive and utterly damning. After a brief but intense legal battle, Derek withdrew his challenge, finally accepting the terms as written. I hadn't seen or spoken to him since he stormed out of that conference room. Mr. Henderson informed me Derek had moved out of Dad's house, my house now, and taken an extended vacation abroad. I couldn't help but feel this tangled knot of anger, pity, and a lingering, stubborn familial attachment. Despite everything, he was still my brother, the little boy who once built sandcastles with me on Cape Cod beaches. My first major decision was whether to relocate to Boston or try to manage the company remotely from New York. After careful consideration and lengthy discussions with Mr. Henderson and the board, I decided to move back, at least temporarily, until I truly understood the business and established a management structure I could trust. The company transition wasn't seamless. Several longtime employees, fiercely loyal to Derek, resigned. Others were openly skeptical of my leadership, questioning what an artist could possibly know about real estate development. I faced these challenges head-on, pouring the same dedication I'd given my art into understanding the business. I'm not pretending to be an expert in real estate, I told the assembled employees during my first company-wide meeting. But I know my father's values and I know mine. Sanchez Properties will be run with integrity, creativity, and respect for every single person who works here. I surrounded myself with experienced advisors, spent countless hours studying every facet of the business, and slowly, painstakingly, began to earn their respect. I also initiated a thorough ethics review of all current projects, making necessary changes even when they impacted the bottom line. The Madison Avenue project, the one Derek had bragged about at the funeral, required significant revisions after we uncovered multiple safety shortcuts. The additional costs cut into profits, but the resulting building was something we could all finally be proud of. At its ribbon-cutting ceremony, 6 months after Dad's death, I felt his presence so strongly, approving of the difficult but right decisions. Gradually, family members began to reach out. The first was my cousin Brenda, who called hesitantly one afternoon. "I owe you an apology," she said without preamble. "I believed Derek's version of things without ever asking for yours. That wasn't fair." "No, it wasn't," I agreed, not making it easy for her. Years of judgment and exclusion couldn't be erased with one phone call. "I understand if you don't want to speak to me," Brenda continued. "But I'd like a chance to rebuild our relationship if you're willing." I considered her request. "I'm open to that, but it will take time. And I need you to understand that I never abandoned Dad. I never stopped caring about this family." "I know that now," she said quietly. "We all do." Similar conversations followed with Uncle Richard, Aunt Carol, and other extended family members. Some were genuinely sincere in their remorse. Others, I sensed, were more interested in maintaining connections to the now thriving family business than in genuine reconciliation. I welcomed the former while maintaining healthy boundaries with the latter. One of my most meaningful discoveries came when I finally moved into Dad's house. In his study, behind a false panel in the bookcase, a hidden spot I remembered from childhood treasure hunts, I found a collection of my artwork. Not just the pieces he'd purchased anonymously, but photographs of my student work, newspaper clippings about my exhibitions, even a framed copy of my art school diploma. Alongside these treasures was a leather-bound journal. Opening it with trembling hands, I found entries dating back years, chronicling Dad's thoughts about the business, about Derek, and about me. The early entries reflected his disappointment in my career choice. But as time passed, his tone changed. Maya's new exhibition online today read an entry from 2 years before his death. "Her work is getting attention from serious critics. There's a depth to her paintings that reminds me of how she used to see the world as a child, always noticing things the rest of us missed. I wish I could tell her how proud I am, but the distance between us now feels unbridgeable. Derek says she doesn't return his calls either. I wonder if she's truly moved on from this family. Later entries became more questioning, showing the first seeds of doubt about Derek's narrative. The final entries documented his shocking discoveries and his determination to make things right. The private investigator confirmed my worst fears today, he wrote 3 months before his death. Derek has been systematically keeping Maya away from me, intercepting our communications for years. How could I have been so blind? My son has betrayed not only his sister, but the core values I thought I'd instilled in him. I need to fix this, to reach out to Maya directly, to tell her the truth, to ask her forgiveness. I'm planning a trip to New York next month. I only hope it's not too late to repair what's been broken. Tears streamed down my face as I read his final entry, dated just days before his heart attack. Made arrangements for New York. Haven't felt this hopeful in years. Also met with Mr. Henderson about changing my will. If something happens before I can reconcile with Maya in person, at least she'll know the truth. At least she'll know I loved her, that I recognized her strength and integrity. Derek's actions must have consequences, though it breaks my heart to implement them. I only hope that someday both my children will find their way back to the values that matter most. These discoveries helped me begin to heal, to forgive both my father and myself for the years we'd lost. I couldn't change the past, but I could honor his memory by leading the company with the integrity he valued and by nurturing my artistic vision alongside this new responsibility. 6 months after taking over Sanchez Properties, I launched the Arthur Sanchez Foundation for Arts Education, using company profits to fund art programs in Boston's underserved schools. For the foundation's inaugural exhibition, I displayed my new series of paintings inspired by the fishing trips of my childhood alongside a carefully curated selection of emerging local artists. The opening was well attended by both the art community and the business world. As I stood addressing the crowd, I felt a sense of integration between these two aspects of my life that had once seemed irreconcilable. My father taught me 2 important lessons, I told the assembled guests. First, that integrity is non-negotiable. And second, that sometimes the most valuable perspective comes from stepping away and seeing things differently. That's what art does for us. It challenges us to see the world through new eyes. The Arthur Sanchez Foundation aims to give that gift to the next generation. After the speeches, as guests mingled and admired the artwork, Mr. Henderson approached me with a gentle smile. "Your father would be incredibly proud," he said, glancing around the exhibition. "You've managed to honor both his legacy and your own vision. Not many people could navigate that balance so gracefully. I wish he could see it," I replied, the familiar ache of loss momentarily sharpening. "In some ways, I think he did see it," Mr. Henderson said thoughtfully. "He recognized your potential long before any of us. That's why he made the choice he did." The next morning, I visited Dad's grave for the first time since the funeral. I brought a simple bouquet of wildflowers and sat beside the headstone in the quiet cemetery. "I'm trying to do right by you, Dad," I said softly. "The company is doing well. We just launched the foundation. I think you'd approve of the changes we've made." I paused, gathering my thoughts. "I found your journal. I know you wanted to reconcile. I wish we'd had that chance, but knowing you were proud of me, that you understood, it means everything." I told him about the business, about my art, about the challenge and unexpected satisfaction of bringing these worlds together. As I spoke, I felt a sense of peace settling over me, a feeling that despite everything, something broken had been mended. "I haven't heard from Derek," I continued. "Mr. Henderson says he's in Europe somewhere. I hope someday we can find a way forward, but I'm not holding my breath. Some wounds take longer to heal than others." Before leaving, I placed my hand on the cool granite of the headstone. "I love you, Dad. Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't know you did. I'll try to make you proud every day." Life continues to be this complex balance of business, leadership, and artistic pursuit. Some days I feel completely overwhelmed by the dual responsibilities, wondering if I can truly do justice to both. Other days bring unexpected moments of clarity and purpose, a confirmation that I'm exactly where I need to be. What I've learned through all of this is that family relationships are rarely simple. They're shaped by misunderstandings, by the stories we tell ourselves and each other, by opportunities taken, and by those tragically missed. My father and I lost years we can never get back. But in the end, truth prevailed. His final act gave me not just a business empire, but something far more valuable. The knowledge that he saw me, truly saw me, and loved me for exactly who I am. Have you ever experienced a moment when truth finally came to light after years of misunderstanding? How did it change your perspective on your relationships? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories about family, healing, and finding your path. Thank you for joining me on this journey.